Should I stop sharing my screen?
Hmm?
Should I stop sharing my screen?
No.
Oh, no? Okay.
Yep, keep it as normal.
Okay.
Perfect. So we'll just wait a few more minutes to see if anybody else is going to be joining. So we'll just wait a few more minutes to see if anybody else is going to be joining. All right. Okay, well, we should get started. So hello and welcome everyone. My name is Kylie. I am the community manager here with No Fear Counseling and Dear Eliza. So thank you so much for joining us. It's going to be a really exciting webinar. It's all about self-compassion, and it is with our widely admired counselor. We have Andrea here with us today, Andrea De Silva. A few things to very quickly note, just some housekeeping before we get started. I will be doing my best to monitor the chat box, so please feel free to ask any questions that you might have, and I'll do my best to answer them along the way. Otherwise, if it's a question related to the content of Andrea's presentation, I kindly ask you to save your questions to the end. We will have a Q&A portion when the presentation is finished. We also just do ask that you please turn your microphones off so that we can hear really clearly without any background noise. And then if you would like to have your camera on, please feel free to do that. And if not, that's okay too. Okay, so we'll hand it over to Andrea.
Thank you, Kylie. And thank you, everybody, for being here tonight for this presentation on what may seem like a foreign or kind of unknown subject, self-compassion. Two words that don't really go together. And it was like that when I first heard of it before I studied it. Because, you know what, in our society, I mean, it is practically second nature for us to be compassionate to other people when we see that they are having a tough time, when they might need some help. We hand out, we stick out a hand, right? We want to help them. And this is a wonderful way of relating to other people. And it just so happens that when the tables are turned and we are the ones having a tough time, we're generally not as excited to help. We're not as nice, and this can be difficult. And so, what I'd like to do tonight at this presentation, I would like to show you a bit more about self-compassion, about how it's a valid and research-based practice shown to increase well-being for other people and also for yourself. Ultimately, my aim is to help you to relate differently to yourselves, and importantly, to be able to give and receive this very precious gift at any time, the gift of loving, connected presence. All right. So maybe we could get started with a scenario. So imagine that you are walking to your car after work, and a person holding an armload of books appears at the end of the sidewalk you are on. And just before the pair of you are going to pass each other by, then the person stumbles and drops their load, what they're carrying on the floor. And so it's all of their books and stuff all over the floor in front of them. And so maybe kind of consider what would be going through your mind. What would you be inclined to? What would you want to do? Right? What would you say? And so again, for a large proportion of all of us, we would be compassionate. We would, offer help. And so the word compassion, is in itself, it's a very good descriptive word. Like if you split it down the middle, the com, calm, means with in Latin, and passion is the Latin word for suffering. So when we are compassionate with someone, we're suffering with them. Okay. So here are a few or three definitions of compassion. And it is possible to see that there are three things need to happen for us to respond compassionately. First, we're aware of somebody else suffering, right? Somebody else in distress. We can see it, we're aware of it. And then second, there's like an innate desire to help, to want to give them a hand. And then thirdly, there is a recognition that, yeah, wow, there's a universality in suffering. Well, we could all suffer, right? And so recognizing these things, we want to help. Okay. And then as you can see in the first two definitions, it talks about sympathy. And sympathy, being sympathetic, also a wonderful thing. It differs from compassion in the sense that when we are sympathetic, we suffer with the person, whereas with compassion, as we just saw, it's about. Or, I'm sorry. So with sympathy, it's about suffering for another person, whereas with compassion, it's about suffering with them. Right? And so that is compassion. Okay. And so let's check out another scenario. And so in this one, so now imagine that you're heading out to your car at the end of a workday again, and it's you that's carrying the armload of books, and you're in the garage, and you're almost with the car, and you're fishing in your pocket for your keys, and then you accidentally stumble. You accidentally stumble and drop your books and files all over the place, right? Now, what would your mind be? What would be going through your mind? What would you be inclined to say or to do? If you're like 69 to 75% of us, yeah, we're generally more compassionate to other people than we are to ourselves. Okay. And what's this? So, fortunately, East has come to meet West, so to speak. In the past while, there's been more an increased interchange or recognition that the fundamental tenets of a lot of religions, Eastern and Western, they include like seeds of self-compassion. So, for example, again in the East, in Buddhism, yeah, the American writer Pema Chodron, she has said herself that basically in order to have compassion for others, we have to have compassion for ourselves first. Okay, and then moving westward a bit in the Judeo-Christian tradition, Jesus himself, in his great commandment, he says, to love your neighbor as yourself. Right? I respect that with so many different religions and spiritualities, there just might be a seed of self-compassion there as well. Okay. And it so happens that back in 2003, the then researcher, Kristen Neff, she got the ball rolling on researching and practicing self-compassion here in the West. Okay. In the way that she conceptualizes self-compassion, the definition that we are going to focus on tonight, her definition, it includes, again, three components, right? The three things need to happen for us to be self-compassionate. All right, so the first, to be aware of, to own up to, okay, our own suffering. And then a desire a genuine desire to help out. And finally, a recognition of the universality of suffering. Sound familiar? The components of self-compassion are identical to those of compassion for others. And further, Kristen Neff's definition of self-compassion includes three important components: self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness, or present moment awareness. And these three elements, they pair very nicely with the gift that we are talking about and trying to give and receive for ourselves: loving, connected presence. Okay, so let's check these out. The first is self-kindness. Okay, it seems kind of like blatantly obvious when we see somebody else having a tough time, somebody else suffering. We see them having a tough time, we want to help out, which is a wonderful thing. And it just so happens that when the tables are turned, like we were talking about in the scenarios, when the tables are turned, we're not so motivated to help ourselves out. Largely that could be because self-criticism, judgment, maybe shame, they kind of blur the picture. But all in all, our bodies are in it for us. Right? Yeah, there's the fight or flight. There's also the tend to befriend instinct. Okay, and so our bodies are in it for us. In fact, our bodies kind of make manifest. They bring about like what is in our minds. Okay. And so like even neurobiologically, when the body senses a kind or gentle touch, it could trigger the release of oxytocin. And oxytocin is the hormone of love and belonging, right? And so how about we take a very, very, very short break and get the oxytocin pumping, right? Giving yourselves a self hug, just wrapping your arms around yourself, or if you're more comfortable, just putting your hands on top of your heart. Okay. And so even just this very, very, very minor thing, what we're doing is we are triggering the release of oxytocin. And this is a way to deactivate the threat center, or the fight or flight. And yeah, it's being self-compassionate. And we'll come back to this. We'll come back to this at the end. Right? So that was self-kindness. And then the second component of Kristen Neff's definition, common humanity. Common humanity is it's kind of the opposite of what generally happens to us. Like when we find ourselves in a tough spot, in a tough situation, we like have tunnel vision. It's just us. Why is this happening to me? What's going on? We're not seeing, we're not perceiving that other people are here. Other people are, at one time or another, they're having a tough time too. And we don't feel connected. So with common humanity, it very much, it refers to the mutuality in compassion. Recall from our first slide that compassion means suffering with, right? So suffering with, there are other people, right? There are other people, and we're all in this together. Yeah, the suffering, the distress, it looks different for everyone, and it happens at different times and all this, but we're not alone. We're not alone. And so like, even just recalling this, it can be liberating. A final component of self-compassion, according to Kristen Neff, is mindfulness, or present moment awareness. And here, it's about being aware of what is happening right now, and just what's happening here right now. Not adding things, no more, no less, are accidentally being carried away with the drama, right? We're just being realistic, right? This is what is happening right now, okay? Being aware and ideally not judgmentally aware, okay? And Chris Germer, he makes a really important distinction about the awareness, about the awareness of the present moment experience. In particular, Chris Germer specifies that whereas acceptance usually refers to what is happening to us, so thoughts or feelings, self-compassion is acceptance of the person to whom it's happening. So self-compassion, it's about acceptance of ourselves while we are in pain. Okay. A really, I think, motivational sort of or inspirational sort of quote from John Kabat-Zinn. I don't, perhaps some of you know him. He is a professor emeritus of mindfulness at MIT, and so he wisely says that you can't control the waves, but you can learn to surf. And so we have been discussing what self-compassion is, the different components of it. So now I think it is very important to look at what self-compassion is not, because it is very, very easy to kind of misunderstand or misperceive certain things. Totally understandable. We'll check this out. And so the first thing that self-compassion is not is self-pity. It's not about having a woe is me party or anything like this. Self-pity, or sorry, self-compassion is freely, offering ourselves the kindness, offering ourselves, offering ourselves the care that we would otherwise give other people if they were in need of compassion. And self-pity or self-compassion is not, it's not about again being drawn away with either personal drama or anything like that. It's recognizing what's happening and responding in a different way, responding with kindness, etc. Okay. Self-compassion is also not letting yourself off the hook. Self-compassion is because you care. Self-compassion is about doing things, making choices that are for our health and our happiness in the long run. Because we value ourselves, because we care, we're relating to ourselves in a different way. Okay. And so the self-critic might ask, are you good enough? And it's likely to say no. But with self-compassion, what's asked is, okay, what do you need right now? Go to help. Self-compassion is also not self-indulgence. It's like a distinction needs to be made here with maybe having cake is a good example, right? And so having a slice of cake at the end of a difficult day, have as a treat, could be a good thing, right? But then if on one particular day we eat the entire cake, right? It's not likely we'll be feeling very good at the end of the day, right? With self-compassion, not like that. We want to do it in order to help ourselves, to be happy, to be healthy. Self-compassion is not passivity, not resignation. It's a choice. It's a choice, responding to ourselves differently. It's not resignation. We're not giving up. We're just recognizing what is, recognizing reality. Self-compassion it's not self-centered. And self-compassion is very different from self-esteem. Self-esteem is important. It's just that self-esteem, it's about an evaluation. We evaluate ourselves. We consider, okay, did I get this done? How much did I do? What did I not do, etc. And so when our self-esteem is high, or when we perform well, our self-esteem is really high. We feel great. And it doesn't take much for that self-esteem to plummet. Right? With self-compassion, it's rather than being based on an evaluation, self-compassion is all about the dignity of being human. Right? The dignity of being human, recognizing that yeah, we all suffer, we all screw up every now and again. That's okay. Like the inherent value of our person, that's what we are. That's what we are um, noticing. But yeah, noticing. And so self-compassion is not self-esteem. So how could this be possible? And we've discussed how self-compassion it can actually deactivate the threat system. And our bodies, like innately, our bodies want to care about us, right? Even our inner critic, they kind of get a bad rap, but they want to help in one way or another. They want to help. And so perhaps this could be explained experientially. I will share with you the hand as brain model. This is not something I made up. It's from Professor Dan Siegel. You could definitely Google him. Wonderful stuff. Anyway, so the hand is brain model. So if you go like this, make your hand into a fist. This is like your brain. Right? This is your brain. And then if you open it up, right? And then put your thumb into the center. Okay. And so below your thumb is your limbic area, the emotions region of your brain. Okay. And then your thumb is your inner critic. Your thumb is your inner critic. And notice how alone it is, how unsupported, etc. So over the course of time, when when the body sensed or the inner critic sensed threat, it would kind of click, or, yeah, it would click the amygdala. Okay, the amygdala. So every time it would go like this, the fight or flight system, the fight or flight would be engaged, right? And then so all the cortisol and all the cortisone, all of the hormones would be going off, right? And so it would do that just when it felt threatened, when it felt not safe, and did that. Okay, and then so over the course of time, and the brain matured, and different structures developed. Eventually, the neocortex, basically behind your forehead, this developed. And notice what happened. It's supporting the inner critic. It's supporting it and giving it, being with it. Okay, and so kind of it made a difference, right? And then so even in our day to day, every now and again, the inner critic could like flip the lid, and start pushing on the amygdala again, and then fight or flight and all of this stuff. However, as we're discussing tonight, there are ways to activate the neocortex so that the inner critic could be supported. Okay, not suffocated. It's being supported, right? And then so finally, in in the 1990s, 1998, an Estonian affective neuroscientist named Jaak Panksepp, he researched and he found seven different circuits in the brain. Okay? And the one that is really relevant here is the care circuit. In the care circuit, it has a lot of, like, its main role is to produce emotions, and then in particular, it can lead to the release of oxytocin. Right? The release of oxytocin. Basically, it is it is triggered. It is part of. It can be. Sorry. It yeah. Self-compassion can definitely come from the care circuit in the brain, because again, innately, the body cares. Okay. And this list of the benefits, totally not exhaustive. However, just to list out a few benefits to help you to see that self-compassion, it has cognitive, it has physical, it has relational, it has emotional benefits, right? It leads to well-being. Well-being, okay, yes, for others, but also for ourselves. Again, like we saw just a little while ago, because we care. Because we care. And so how do we do this self-compassion thing? It's different for everyone. Right? It's different for everyone on the basis of what feels right, what feels good for us. How can we offer ourselves self-compassion, right? Loving, connected presence. Okay? Um, Self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. Right? We can we can make it our own. Okay? And so we talked about one of those ways earlier this evening, giving ourselves a self hug, just wrapping our arms around ourselves, or you know what, putting hands over our heart. Okay? Either way, releasing the oxytocin, feeling the release of that hormone of love and safety and belonging. Okay? And another way is the self-compassion break. The self-compassion break was developed by Dr. Kristen Neff. And what it is, again, something that we make our own, that we make pertinent to particular situations. When we notice that we are in distress, when we notice we're having a tough time, okay? Um, Allowing ourselves to notice that we're having that tough time. And then, if possible, if you are comfortable doing so, kind of putting your hand over your heart, or putting your hand on top of wherever like you're feeling the pain. Okay? So putting a hand over top of it, and then going through the three components of self-compassion. As you can see here, this is a moment of suffering. Yeah? Mindfulness, present moment awareness, state in the facts. Right? And then suffering is part of life, common humanity. And then finally, self-kindness. May I be kind to myself in this moment. May I give myself the compassion I need. And again, this script can be changed, like, to match the situation that's going on for you. Helping yourself to see that I can help. I have been here before. We can do this. Yeah, the self-compassion break. Hand over heart. Using meditation, there are different self-compassion meditations, like the loving kindness meditation. Um, being able to sit with this, sit with self-compassion, and let it kind of permeate your system. Okay. Another thing you could do is to write yourself a self-compassionate letter, or compose a self-compassionate email, and have it somewhere accessible that you can see, that you can access, or you can read it when you're having a tough time, just to remind yourself of the gift that is available to you all the time. Loving connected presence, like it's there, and helping yourself, reminding yourself it is. Okay, and then another thing you could do is to post self-compassionate reminders on 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 your mirror, in your glove compartment, in the car, on your rear view mirror, or on the fridge or somewhere where that you will, somewhere that you commonly look at, so that you have reminders of, again, of that powerful gift that you can give and receive anytime, loving connected presence. One final component that is important to let you know about is, practice self-compassion, self-compassionately. It's really important, because when we offer ourselves self-compassion, it's kind of like opening the window to let some love in, right? To let some love, some care, some help, some support, some compassion in. And this is great. It's just that when our heart is hot with suffering, when our hearts have kind of put up bars, and bars trying to keep anything away from the heart because it doesn't want to get hurt again. Right? And so they're locked tight. And so even the slightest little bit of air coming in, like air coming into a fire, boom, it could be backdraft. It could be, it could just not be entirely comfortable, right? And if this should happen, it doesn't always, but if it does, that's totally okay, totally normal. Right? In fact, like, it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. Just the opposite. You're doing something very right. Right? This is part of the process of healing. Right? So with Backdraft, I have provided an article for you to read regarding how to cope with Backdraft. The first thing that you can do is, notice it, acknowledge it, that, this is what it is. It's Backdraft. And that's okay. That's a completely natural thing. Because when we give ourselves self-compassion, we don't give ourselves self-compassion in order to feel good. It's not like a quick fix anything, right? We give ourselves self-compassion because we feel bad. And so being self-compassionate, being kind to yourself in ways that like at a pace that can be tolerated by your system, by your heart. Okay? And so practice self-compassion, self-compassionately. Finally, embrace who you are. Everything about you. Embrace who you are, and again, give and receive that gift, that loving, connected presence. Okay. And so thank you. That is it. And thank you so much.
Okay, wonderful. That was so good. I know that I learned a lot. Does anybody have any questions for Andrea? Is there anything that maybe you'd like to kind of discuss further? Please, feel free to unmute yourself, open up the microphones, and yeah, we'd love to hear from you. All right. Does anybody have any questions? No questions? Okay, well, if anybody really connected with what Andrea was discussing this evening, she is taking on more clients at this time, and we will be sending out a follow-up email with a bunch of really incredible resources to continue to learn how to keep practicing self-compassion, because it is a practice.
It is.
Yes, it is a practice. And we will have the option to book some consultations. And again, we will be sharing more resources. So thank you so much, everyone,
Thank
for
you.
joining. And yeah, we hope to hear from you again soon. Okay.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much.
Goodbye. Thanks, Andrea.